British Museum collection is comprised of thousands of metal objects who, like the visitors who make the journey to see them, come from all over the world. One of the most interesting galleries in the museum is the Money Gallery, where currencies spanning centuries and world areas are exhibited. Visitors may know more about some of these objects of currency than others. Some of these currencies have a less well-known and somewhat darker story. Manillas are a form of West African currency made from copper alloys. They are also deeply tied to European and American history. They were produced and used most extensively during the height of the slave trade between the late 15th and the mid-19th centuries. Many of the manillas are in fact made of metals of European origin. Produced in the Midlands, and indeed in other European countries such as Portugal, manillas were taken to Africa to be exchanged for slaves, who were then sent to America to work on plantations. The British and the Portuguese took advantage of already circulating manillas and produced their own at a very low cost. They were aware that, along the coast of West Africa, copper bracelets were a means of exchange. Imitations such as this Birmingham manilla were cheap to make, but worth considerably less than those that were genuine. As the donator of this piece, James Foster, wrote in 1872, the people would not be using this sort. Manillas such as this King Manilla, engraved with ornamental patterns, were of high value and could be exchanged for one slave. Manillas such as these could also be traded for ivory, spices, palm oil, and other exotic goods. We can tell which manillas are of European origin by studying their metal composition. Manillas made in Europe were often of very impure metal. Often they had a high lead or antimony content. Those made in Africa were cast using a much higher content of copper, in part because they needed to be of higher quality in order to act as currency. These incredible brass heads from the Kingdom of Benin were made using the lost wax technique of casting. The metal composition of similar heads seems to show a great deal of similarity with that of European-made manillas. With high antimony content in particular, they seem to show a common type of alloy. A manilla found on a shipwreck off the coast of Cornwall in 1684 reveals huge similarities with these Benin heads. They contain up to 20% lead and 4% zinc. These percentages are consistent with European-made copper alloys, and this has led to speculation as to whether these heads are made from recycled manillas. This sort of composition is similar to a number of post-medieval European alloys used in the manufacture of other objects, although the area in which these heads originate does suggest that they may have been made from metals originally cast as manillas. Objects made of copper and brass, imported from Europe, were an important component of trade. It is entirely possible that the bulk of these imports were melted down into the castings that we know today as the Benin bronzes.